Yes.
Welcome to Manifest This Believer versus Skeptic. I'm Sharon, your resident skeptic who asks all the tough questions. And with me is Jennifer Neal, our manifesting maestro. Whether you're rolling your eyes or raising your vibration, we dive into all things manifestation, mindset, and energy from every side. Hit subscribe, settle in, and get ready for spirited debates, surprising experiments, and laughter on the journey to creating a life you love. Welcome to Manifest This Believer versus Skeptic. Today, we're going to talk about why do we get so intense when we want someone to change. But before we start, I wanted to say something very special. Jennifer, happy anniversary. This is our 1 year anniversary of starting this podcast. And I just want to say it's been a fun ride with you, and I really, really appreciate hanging out with you.
Thank you. I do too, Sharon. I'm just so thrilled with us for so many reasons. And so that means 52, right?
Yep, 52 today. Well,
Wow.
this is number 1. 52 was our end, and now this is our
Okay.
first one of the second year going.
That's so great. Well, thank you for being along on this ride with me. You know how passionate I am about this topic. And I'm just so thrilled that you want to do this every week with me too. So thank you.
Obviously, a shout out to our listeners because we do hear from you and we appreciate your thoughts and we appreciate you listening to us every week. We try to be as consistent as possible and we haven't missed a week yet, which we're absolutely thrilled about. So, thanks to all our listeners for joining us as well.
I want to talk about something that I caught myself doing recently. And I know I'm not the only one that does this. When you see something so clearly, when you feel something so deeply, you see the way someone is limiting themselves. For me, it's when I see someone limiting themselves, and I've been doing this for years. When I see someone limiting themselves in any way, shape, or form, and I see a pattern that they're stuck in, suddenly I'm not calmly explaining the point anymore. I'm now intense. I am louder. I'm practically grabbing them. In fact, I did this. I grabbed my neighbor by the shoulders the other day and I said, "Don't you see? Don't you see? Don't you see that this is possible?" And then later, the penny dropped for me. And I thought, why did I get so worked up about that?
I've got to say, first of all, I love that you're admitting this because, yes, you absolutely do that. You get
Wah,
very,
wah.
very passionate when you believe someone is limiting themselves. And I'm going to add this. I'm as guilty as you are as well because you know me, if there's a problem, I want to jump in and fix it. That's my nature. And it has been brought to my attention as recently as today
Really?
that something I said in terms of trying to help didn't quite land the way I intended. So, this
Mhm.
conversation is very interesting to me. So, from my side, the skeptic side, and I think from a lot of people's side, sometimes it feels like we're trying to convert people. Like, we've seen the light and now everyone else has got to see it as well.
Yeah, exactly. And this actually made me start thinking about this whole topic of, why do we do that? And why do human beings get so emotionally charged? Listen, you and I aren't alone. We want to help people. Why do we get so emotionally charged when we want someone to change? Because it happens in relationships, it happens in families, it happens in politics. It even happens, in trying to become a better human being. So, yeah, so let's dive into this a little bit. Like I can see it so clearly. I can feel it so clearly. I hear when people are saying limiting things to themselves, when they are limiting experiences, events, even parking spots. I can hear the words so clearly. Let me describe the feeling. So I just mentioned parking. So you see someone that says something like this. There's never going to be parking there, Jennifer. You can't do that. I can't do that. That's not for people like me. I'm expanding on this now, right? That's not for people like me. And in my mind, I'm thinking, but that's not true. I'm literally watching someone argue for their limitations, even as simple as a parking spot. And the believer side of me thinks, why would anyone do that to themselves?
Okay, so let's look at this from the skeptic side for just a minute. So sometimes what you might call limitations, other people call it realism. You want to say we live in an abundant universe, but somebody else might say we live in a world with probabilities and experience. And maybe they've been to a place 100 times and the parking there is really terrible.
But here's the interesting part. When people say things like that, they're not just describing reality, and I'm in air quotes doing that because that's up for discussion itself, right? They're not just describing reality, they are declaring it.
Okay.
Right? So a declaration is very powerful, as we've talked about over the past year. When somebody says there will never be parking, they're not just predicting the future, they're reinforcing a belief system, and the universe wants to show you what you believe.
Or, maybe they're just making a comment about parking. I
Yeah.
wanna I wanna dive into something for a second. It was a recent conversation I was having with a friend, and she was describing her reality. And as I was listening, while I was extremely sympathetic to what she was going through, you know me, much like you, we're fixers. And in my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, but what about this? And what about that? And it's possible this is also true. In other words, she
See,
was
you're guilty too.
right? In other words, she was saying one thing, and
Yeah.
I'm trying to give a little bit of grace to the person on the other side. And the
Mhm.
realization for me was, but maybe both things can be true at the same time. Did I just throw a spanner in this?
No, but they are. Your reality and my reality are two different realities.
Right,
We talked about this before. We're sitting at the same party. I think it's fucking amazing and you wanna go home.
right,
So, there your reality is your reality, which is leads right into what we're talking about, which is you are creating your reality. You are
right,
creating a world where there are no parking spots. So, fine, have fun,
right. Okay.
right?
So I guess this is where I'm trying to get a handle on when there's that shouting that you were describing earlier of, this is my reality and that's your reality, at what point can you filter or listen to it and take it in? And I think that was the challenge that I was having was how do you put the possibility in someone's lap without them feeling put out or upset or not heard?
I don't think we do anymore. Really don't.
I think this is
I
what you're
don't.
getting at, right?
think Listen, I think that God, I could go on this forever. Like, there's so much kind of perfect storm stuff happening in my life right now. Like, I just finished reading, or almost finished, like 3 pages away from reading Elizabeth Gilbert's new book, Take Me to the River. And it's such a great book for so many reasons. And it's her memoir of her life with her lesbian lover of many, many years after she divorced her husband. And they were both addicts of a different kind. Her girlfriend was a her spouse, I should say, was an alcoholic and cocaine and all sorts of hard drug, like shooting up, I don't know the right words, but hardcore drug addict. And Elizabeth is a self-declared sex and love addict. And so she's constantly going around trying to do nice things, pay people because she needs their love in return so badly. And so she has this codependency on the people in her life. At the end of the book, she starts talking about her 12-step recovery program. And her sponsors are constantly saying to her, stop it. Stop trying to put your energy on other people. Instead, work on yourself.
Right,
Right? And so it's like, keep your hands to yourself. And I have to learn that lesson. Like, and this is where things get interesting. Just because someone believes something or someone believes deeply in possibility, like I do, right?
right,
Or in Liz Gilbert's case, she was throwing money at them or throwing all sorts of things at them because she believed in them, and someone else believes in their own limitation. Those two belief systems are going to collide, and
right,
they do.
right.
And then suddenly the conversation isn't about a parking spot anymore. It's about worldviews. And that's when it gets very contentious.
Well, and probably super intense. So here's my question. Why does that collision of world views make people so emotional? Why don't people just say, okay, I see it your way, I see it my way? When does that turn into a moment?
Because underneath it all, there's something very much deeper. There's something deeper underneath all of this. Because when you believe you have discovered something powerful, in my case, I believe in the power that's been given to me by God, something that has changed your life, my life has been changed, you naturally want to share it. And in fact, I could go even way more biblical on this. Our job on earth is to share the good news. Not everybody's ready to hear that.
Right.
Think about someone who finds a health cure,
Okay.
right? Or a business strategy or a spiritual insight. They feel like they've discovered something valuable. Listen, this morning we were watching Rick Warren, and he was talking about if you had the cure to AIDS and you did not share that, you could be persecuted for that, right? How could you possibly keep a cure to yourself that could save the lives of so many people? We want to help other people. We're put on this earth to help other people. It is not normal to keep those kinds of things to ourselves. So I
Right.
think we have a natural tendency to want to help.
I find it interesting because sometimes that help to some feels like pressure because from the other person's perspective, it can feel like they're being told, well, you know what? You're doing life wrong.
Totally. But, and this is not, I don't know the answer to this, but why do we feel, because I think it triggers a wound, right? But that's the answer. But why do we feel so out of sorts when somebody points out a life hack versus if I had cancer and you said, Jen, like I was talking to a couple the other night that their son went to Barbados for fertility treatments because they're prepared to look at markers in Barbados different than we do in Canada. They'll push the limit a little bit more than we do in Canada. If you were an infertile couple so far, would you want to know about that? Of
Mhm.
course you would. Why is it when we have these life limitations, we're not open to the cure for that, right? Going back to what you said, I think that's where the intensity often comes from. It's not anger, it's not ego, but it's frustration because you feel like you're watching someone walk past open doors and you want to say to them, but the door's right there.
Yeah, look, and here's sort of the experience that in real time I've been experiencing where I can see that pattern. And, I'm going to be a healthy skeptic in most things, but I observe patterns as well, as many people do. And when you see the pattern of someone doing themselves in over and over and over again, it's disheartening, especially when it's somebody that you really care about. But then the other side of me thinks, not only, what if they don't want that door or what if they're perfectly happy in the room that they're in, but also, is it my place to teach the lesson or is it my place to push them to seeing something if they're not willing to?
No. And, I would say, no, it's not anymore. And I'm deeply guilty of that. People are going to listen to us if they want to listen to us. People are going to, what's that saying? When the student is ready, the master will appear, right?
Right.
The
Right.
master doesn't go hounding on the student, and I'm totally guilty for that. But, one of the most fascinating lines that was in Elizabeth Gilbert's book was, just bear with me 1 minute because I want to quote this. She basically says that when you take it upon yourself to give help to somebody else that may not have asked for it, you are overlooking the fact that they have their own higher power too. They have access to the same God you and I have. They have access to the same power, energy, source that you and I do. Who are we to think that they don't have access to that and therefore we have to help bring it to them? We have to stop fixing other people's problems when they haven't asked for help.
Right.
And, that's the hard truth that most teachers eventually learn. You cannot drag someone into awareness. You can only invite them.
Okay, so for me, this is interesting because I hear a little bit of an ego piece in all of this,
Totally.
right? Sometimes the intensity isn't about helping people. I mean, let's be honest, and I'll be honest here. I get something out of helping people. It makes me feel good that I can help somebody, sometimes even when I'm not invited. And sometimes it's also about being right,
And
thinking your
sometimes
way, thinking your way is right. And that perspective might not be accurate.
totally, but the other piece that I'm just, like, really learning about from this book by Liz Gilbert is stop trying to help other people what you're actually doing is ignoring your own problems that need to be fixed. And so helping other people is a great distraction from what we need to fix in ourselves.
Okay,
And
that's
so,
really interesting.
yeah, like it's a distraction method that we use when we think someone else is more broken than we are. And we put our attention on, again, it's that if I help you, you'll like me. Stop
Right,
it.
right.
Stop it. Stop trying to fix the world and instead fix yourself. And then we will have a better world if everybody did that. Right. So,
Okay.
is it about being right? Is it about ego? 1,000%. I think it is about all of those things. And I'm swallowing a hard pill right now too. But, going back to belief, when we believe strongly in something, it becomes part of our identity. And so when someone challenges that belief, our brain hears, just like you said, you are wrong. I am right. And suddenly now we are defending our position.
Right. And really that's where the volume starts to go up, right? Because it's not here's another perspective. It's no, you're not understanding.
Exactly, exactly. And it shifts from curiosity to persuasion, and persuasion then turns into pressure. And, as it was put to me the other day, like we become these missionaries. I have become a missionary on this planet to help people see the other perspective.
Yeah.
And nobody likes a missionary. Nobody likes walking down the street and the guys with the white shirts and the little name tags pull you aside and say, have you heard about Jesus Christ? I know why they're doing it now. I know that's part of our purpose on this earth, but it's pressure, and nobody wants more pressure in a world right now that is so full of shouting and anger and hurt and hopelessness. Nobody wants more of that.
Yeah, and I think the other side of it is people don't change because someone explains something really well. I mean, to be honest, I think initially, even with someone who loves you and cares for you greatly, if they say something that just doesn't quite register or you feel like you're in defense mode, no matter how gently you try to deliver it, it's going to come off. Often it will activate someone and they're going to feel a lot of feelings will come up. It's not even the logic of the thing or the conversation of the thing. It's the feeling that we sometimes can't even describe why we're activated by it. So, people are going to change when they're ready, no matter how it's delivered sometimes.
Totally. And I'll tell you, last year I was with a group of girlfriends on a girls' trip, and the topic of Ozempic came up. And I had kind of been tempted by the Ozempic train. I had not bought it. I did have a prescription for it, but I hadn't bought it yet. And I was still on the fence. And one of my girlfriends said, kind of off the cuff, well, why would anybody do that? It's just bad habits. And I went, first of all, how judgmental of you, people that, are battling the disease of obesity. But the second part of it was, "Oh my God, she's right." Like, I do have bad eating habits. I have bad eating habits. Since that point, I've lost 30 pounds naturally without it. So sometimes we don't take change well, you're right, because we're not ready. But other times, somebody can make a statement, you go, I'm not going to admit it, but she's right. So sometimes it just pushes on a point too much or enough to make you want to change.
But I mean, herein lies the key, right? So we're all different.
Yep.
And you might have reacted in that moment in the way that you did. And somebody else in that moment might have reacted very differently and may not have been brave enough to say something or do something. And now they're living with some shame, right?
I wasn't. I was feeling the shame, embarrassment, and judged.
Right.
And all of those things were a reality I could have chosen and did.
Right.
But after a while, I let that it's a year later now, almost exactly to the day, and I'm thinking to myself, "She's right."
For you.
For a lot of people, but she is right. But again, like, I wasn't ready.
So this comes round to, people's assumptions and what assumptions they're ready to hold.
Yeah, and again, statements that people just aren't ready to hear yet. So kind of getting back into this is actually something that many spiritual teachers and spiritual leaders will say. And one of my favorites is Neville Goddard, who's not with us anymore, but he taught that people reflect the assumptions that they're ready to hold. So if someone isn't ready to see possibility, if someone isn't ready to see weight loss, if someone isn't ready to see a parking spot, they literally won't see they won't.
Right. Well, and yelling at them about abundance probably isn't going to help them either.
No. And I yeah, as I say, like, I'm super guilty of that, and I know that, and I can't promise you I'm gonna have a miraculous recovery because I still believe so deeply, but I'm gonna use that belief now for my own life and my own dreams and my own advancement and my own evolution.
And I can see that, and I think I wanna sort of give the opposing view or the skeptic's view that sometimes the evangelism is going to do the opposite to people, because when someone starts to feel pushed, not only are they gonna defend their position even more, they might end up spiraling into something that was unintended by the deliverer who might be coming from a good place and a place of intention, but at the end of the day, we don't know the depths of the person sitting across from us. And I think
Yeah,
we need to show a little bit more grace and a little
yeah,
bit more kindness.
yeah.
And what might be true for me may not be true for them.
Yeah, totally, totally. But the other side of that too is I could be very wrong, and I'm going to put you on the spot here, but would you say that over the years, my evangelism towards the topics you and I have discussed would have had any effect on your belief systems?
Can you phrase that for me in another way?
Do you believe more today than you did maybe 5 years ago that anything is possible and that wonderful things happen and that we live in a good universe, and if you can see it, you can have it? And do you have any more of a sense of the world is a friendly place?
So I think here's the way that I would position it, because I've generally been a glasses half full kind of person. And I would say that it is my curiosity about how the world works that ensures that I have a certain level of open mindedness to allow information to come into my world so that I can accept it, reject it, throw it away, take it on. And what I would say is that the impact that you've had and the enthusiasm with which you live your life and our relationship as friends over the years gives me a different perspective that I can look at, that rock I can pick up, look at it from all sides and go, I like it. I'll keep a piece of it. I'll discard it. So I think what I'm trying to say is it's not necessarily just one thing, but it's that thing your mom always told you, right? Like hang around with friends who influence you well. Our parents always thought like if you were hanging around with people who were a bad influence, chances are things are going to go sideways. But if
Right.
you're hanging out with a good group of people, then things are going to go, I think, in a better way. And as I get older and I have life experience and the opportunity to talk to people, read more, understand things, and be probably more open to multiple experiences, and I think living globally absolutely helps that. I would say that it has pushed my belief in possibility to be even stronger. Does that answer your
Yeah.
question in a roundabout way?
It does, and what I was going to say is I think you play the part of the skeptic very well, very
I'm in,
scientific,
but I'm
but
not all in. Is that
yeah,
it?
no, for sure, and that's fine. So getting back to this, let's reframe this whole thing. And the reframe that I've been thinking about is that maybe the goal for you isn't convincing people. Maybe the goal is embodying a different reality. And instead of saying you should believe this, now I simply just live it and people notice it. And I'll and and this same friend that called out the Ozempic and said, "Well, you just have bad habits." She also has this amazing way of when a topic comes up that she doesn't necessarily either want to engage in or she doesn't believe. I don't know what the answer is. Sometimes, like a heaty discussion will come up and she'll go, "That's it." Huh.
Processing, processing.
Or I'm not touching this. And that's my way of staying, or I'm like, you know what I mean? That's all she does. And
Often
it's dragged me nuts for so long because I'm like, come on, engage with me. But
yeah,
now I'm like, now I adapt.
yeah, and
There's
that's
no
just
parking
it.
spots. There's no parking spots down there.
It's just it, right? Sometimes that's enough.
Yep.
Less missionary, more demonstration.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. So, you know what? I'm not gonna promise I'm not gonna drag people to the door anymore because I feel so strongly about it.
You
However,
are the believer.
I am the believer, but I might just offer them the fact that the door exists.
Right. Okay. So
So, yeah, so in closing, if you ever catch yourself, people, getting really intense about something, about politics, about mindset, about someone's life choices, about what's going on in the world right now, pause and ask yourself, am I trying to help or am I trying to force awareness? Because awareness can't be forced.
I'm having a moment here.
Okay.
And the moment that I'm having is, but to what extent do you stand up for something?
So, are you going to change the world today?
It might just be that drop in the ocean that makes a difference.
Maybe that's your purpose in life.
So you're not necessarily arguing.
Yeah, my outrage is not going to make it better. In fact, I would argue it's going to make it worse.
Okay. So now what I'm hearing is it's less about not saying anything, but choosing what to say in a moment, in a way, or with action that will actually shift things for the better, for the possibility.
We just talked about demonstrating, we just talked about embodying a different reality,
Right.
embodying a reality where solutions are on the way, where everything is changing, where we're confident for change, where we know things are in the works because of a greater power than us, and embodying the confidence in that. Because if we all jump off the ledge like a lemming, there will be no one to help us, right? So I know we're on to a totally different topic, which we probably could do an entire podcast about because I've been doing a lot of posts about this. But yeah, I think it's about embodying the future we want to see,
Right.
embodying the world we want to see.
Okay. So we'll leave that for another time and understand that if someone is arguing for their limitations, that just might be the story they're ready to live right now.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So, I think the most powerful thing we can do is live a different story.
And if it works, people will eventually ask you how you did it.
Exactly. And that's when the real conversation begins.
Well, that's fantastic, Jen. Thank you very much. You've given us a lot to think about, Jennifer. And again, happy anniversary after that 1 year. I've learned a lot. It's great to be with you. And we'll just keep asking the questions and try to figure out how life really works. Oh,
Thanks, everybody. Happy anniversary. Wow, what a year two it's going to be. I'm acting as if it's going to be amazing.
fantastic. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to Manifest This Believer versus Skeptic. If you enjoyed today's conversation, share it with a friend, believer or skeptic. And don't forget to leave us a review so others can join in the debate. Plus, check out Jennifer's TikTok account, Manifestation RX, where she writes daily prescriptions for manifesting your dreams. Think practical tips with a dash of magic. We love hearing your questions and stories, so tell us what you're manifesting or questioning this week. Until next time, keep an open mind and maybe manifest a little magic.